Greetings, everybody. I'm Jeremiah.
That's him.
She's Vania.
That's me.
Welcome to another episode of the Beard and Curls podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, marriage, mental health, and so much more. Today, we have with us one of the leading experts in depression and suicide who's going to break it all down for us. Without further ado, cue that intro.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, Margot Bingham.
Karen Parsons.
You're now tuned in.
You're now tuned in.
You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in
to Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls. Keep it locked.
Our guest today is the youngest recipient of the United Way Emergent Philanthropist Award. He has raised over $6 million for nonprofits. He is an award-winning speaker who has authored several books. More importantly, he is dedicated to helping people succeed. You know him, you love him. Cyrus, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So when you think back to your journey and where it started, what is it like for you to travel around the world to share your story? What's that like for you?
Well, I actually feel like I would be doing the world a disservice if I don't. Because when you see, for me, 6 years old is when I first had a gun held to my head. To seeing the crack, to seeing all that, to seeing the alcohol, to seeing suicide in the family, to seeing, just seeing it all. I realized at that 13-year-old age, and I'm going to answer the question, but at that 13-year-old age, I was doing a mentorship. So even doing a reading to my younger brother, other kids was coming in and I was hearing about young girls 6, 7 years old being molested. I was hearing about all that stuff and I'm being a mentor at 13. You got somebody 7 coming to you telling you that their father touched them. You know what I mean? So I got to report that and I got to sharpen up. So even at 13, 14, 15, I'm sharpening these skills. So now to this point, I realize the best ways to communicate to people by speaking at their language and then touching them through relatability. So I always feel like if I don't get out here and speak and I don't get out here and wrote 3 books and a workbook and do my programs, etc., I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the world in the first place because I went through all that and got out of it. And it's a low statistic of getting out of it. It's a very low statistic. I look at all my friends, some of them doing life, some of them not living here today, some of them is locked up, So I was like, for me to make it through all that, then I believe there's hands on me that help me get through it, and I must give it to the world. So when I travel, I feel like it's an obligation that I actually love too. So that's pretty much the emotion that I got, that it's an obligation for me to tell my story and help other people get through the things that they may not know how to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So can you share a little bit about the impact that you have on people when you travel? So what are the kind of responses that you get?
When I'm talking about homelessness or I'm talking about mother on drugs or I'm talking about heroin and all that, and it's so relatable to the people that have been through it that it's actually funny because they were like, I remember that. I remember when I was being homeless in my car and then my feet was turning numb or my windows fogged up or the police officers, you don't know where to park. When I talk like that, they were like, wait a minute, I remember that feeling. So they laugh. And then I get those people that's like, I don't know what I'm hearing. Almost like Antoine Fisher, this is crazy. I didn't know people was going through it like this. Then I get all those dynamics. So I get the laughter, the crying, the misunderstanding that's trying to understand. I get it all.
You have a series on YouTube called Grow into Greatness.
Well, Grow into Greatness is right here. It's my slogan. Is really us trying to be better than we were yesterday, but then applying it every day. That's really all it is. Because when you take one step at a time, we all come from something. We all have something. We all fight in some battle that the people around us may not know nothing about. Sometimes it's buried so deep in us that we don't even know about it until we run into a trigger. We're like, wait a minute, I didn't even know that was there. Ooh, let me figure this out. So growing to greatness just really means rebuilding yourself daily, trying your best to be better than you were yesterday, but every day, because it's a process and you have to put things in place consciously to affect your unconscious and your subconscious behavior. I say this all the time with people. I'm like, when you have a fire drill, right? What we do is, we all did it in school. I'm from Ohio, so we even had tornado drills, but schools and fire drill, you go through the motions in case you panic, right? So if a fire break out, we know what to do. How many times are we doing that in life? So if a problem break out, do you already know what to do or do you panic? Majority of the time, people don't have nothing in place. Therefore, they panic or they just react. And reacting without thought is not often a good outcome.
How much of the stuff that you're able to do now was just kind of thrust on you because of the circumstances that you found yourself into? Or how much of that is like a calling that you have to just say, I want to help people as best as I can?
I think it's a bit of both. Because when I was 13, that's when I got the chance to start with the Boys and Girls Club. So I got a chance to learn the ins and outs of nonprofit from all the way up and down. I got a chance to see how clean it is. I got a chance to see how dirty it is. I got a chance to see when the money is going to where it's supposed to go, and the perception of where it's going, when it's supposed to be going, and where it's supposed to go, and how money laundering work, and all those different types of things. So seeing all that, growing up within it, kind of sculpted me to be able to do it well. And the calling came because I was emotionally attached to seeing my dad sell crack and my mom smoke it. Like, you know, seeing those dynamics and me going off to college, but then my dad using my Pell Grant and my student aid money to sell dope. So it was like I was fronting him a pack by me just going to college. So I'm trying to be better. And at every step of being better, I was fronting or taking some form of a step back or destroying myself. So it was like a build and destroy thing that I was going through as well. But internally, I felt like it's a gift, really, to put myself in these, for God to put me in these positions, remove me from it, but gain all that experience and not go crazy.
So you have a video about how to control your emotions. So can you tell us a little bit how to master that from your perspective?
It's a step-by-step process. How to control your emotions is putting things in place consciously. That's all we can really do in a nutshell. So for me, I had one of the worst attitudes of all time. I mean, I was ready to kill somebody for the smallest things or ready to die for the smallest things. And really where it came from is the fact that I felt like nobody loved me. So feeling as if nobody loves me, I was lashing out. And I can see somebody, like I went to school and it'd be Mother's Day and I got to make my card out to my aunt, or I got to make it out to my stepmom or my sister or somebody like that. And this person get to make it out to their mom. And I thought that was unfair. So I was lashing out, but that has nothing to do with them just because they got their mom in their life. So I understood then that I had to control that. So I looked at it and was like, how come somebody can do something to me? They walk off the rest of their day okay, but yet I'm mad. I was like, wait a minute, I got to put my handle on this. So I started consciously putting things into place to affect my unconscious and subconscious. Do we deal with anger? Do we have insecurities? Do we have whatever issues we have? Do you really have it? And how can we start overcoming it consciously? Because majority of the time we just react. Somebody might be going through their girl's or boy's phone because I want to find something because they're insecure. They might be lashing out because they feel like they're not loved. It's all these things that we go through at the split of a second. So how do you think in the event that your unconscious or subconscious start taking over too fast?
Yeah, no, I like that. It's more like learning how to respond instead of react to situations by really identifying what's the core underlying belief that's causing you to kind of maybe go off the handle when it's not really about that situation to begin with. It's more about something else, like you said earlier.
Exactly. I see, if you go to a prison, my brother did 13 years. One of my friends is doing life, another friend doing another 14 years. Anytime you talk to him, it's not premeditated. Majority of it is not premeditated. It was, he did this, I did this. Like, but now you got the rest of your life to think about it. So if you got to do life behind a split second decision, it took you 30 seconds to make a decision that you got to live 50 years for. Right. So that's why I'm like, man, you got to tighten up and really start breaking yourself down, because I know it's a hard process, but it's not harder than doing life. When you go into prison, you know what the biggest thing you hear? I wish I would have. So how about we combine all those wish I would haves and get to working on that now? Because it's clear that they had an elevated mental by dealing with so much issue at that time. When you're in jail, you be like, I really wish I would have. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me go ahead and jump on that now, especially somebody on their deathbed. I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have told people I loved them more. I wish I would have gave that person that hug. I wish I wouldn't have argued with that person and not apologize. You know, they say all these I wish I would have things. So I was like, you know what, let me implement that now while I can.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. So later you can say, I'm glad I did, instead of I wish I would have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it seems like you have accomplished a lot and have impacted a lot of people. Um, like how is your influence in your inner circle? The reason why I'm asking is because a lot of times it's harder to influence people that are closer to you. So I just want to know, like from your experience, like how are you able to influence people that you're close to?
I'm pretty hard on them. So I tell them this way. I say this. We are it's a journey. We
Mhm.
all let's just say I'm trying to move this rock from Sherman Oaks to Long Beach. You know,
Mhm.
saying that. Well, let's use some New York to Los Angeles for the people that may be watching and don't know
Yes,
the
yes,
cities. New
yes.
York to Los Angeles. If I'm moving this rock as a family member or as a friend, are you going to help me push that rock?
Mhm.
If you're not going to push that rock, then don't sit on it. So just get out the way if you ain't trying to move forward.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
Mhm.
So for my friend, with my brother, I got 7 brothers, right? So with my oldest brother, he doing music. So I'm like, what is you trying to do with the music? Let me get behind it. So his soundtracks, he'll do is shoot his videos in my clothing. We got to figure out a way to work together. Another one of my friends is a priest. He traveled the nation. Then what he gonna wear is my clothing. I'm gonna put him on my stuff. We figure out a way to work together. So that's what I always say. Then we look at residual income based streams. Like for example, one of my friends, I put out my videos, all my videos on YouTube. We
Mhm.
bounce them out as a acapella. Then I have one of my friends that's a producer put music up under them. Then we
Mhm.
put it on iTunes and divide it up. Then
Mhm.
you also put it on another other platforms that generate income. So I figure out ways to work with them, with what they're doing and what I'm doing. And if
Mhm.
you can't comply, then I say just move out the way and let us get to the destination because it's easier to help you when I'm there. Let me get out the hole so I can throw a rope back, but don't but don't
Don't
stop
sit,
me from climbing.
don't sit on your rock.
Yeah, don't sit on the rock. Get off of it then. At least let the load be lighter if you ain't gonna make it, if you ain't gonna help push it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my philosophy because this time thing that we got moves fast. Like
Mhm.
as fast as I became 30 is as fast as I'm gonna be 60. I know that. So,
Mhm.
you know, it was just January 1st. It was just the top of the year. The gym
Mhm.
was just full. Now we all in the house for coronavirus. That's killing months. We didn't know this was coming. So within this time, what are you gonna do? And it always remind me of this Muhammad Ali. I was influenced by Muhammad Ali, but always remind me of him. He had this one video where he was being interviewed and they was talking to him about, you know, life, etc. And he was going off as he do if you watch his interviews. He
Mhm.
was going off and they was like, why are you being so wild? Why are you being so mad? He said, this has nothing to do with you. Has everything to do with the people that's going to watch it 50 years from now. And I
Mhm.
was like, dang, watching it almost 50 years from now, he was talking to little Cyrus. So as I look at those things, I'll be like, this time frame that we got, we have to move. Or in my case, I'll be like, we got to move. We got to figure out what our goals are. And you got 2 choices. You can get with it or you can get gone. So my family, I feel that way. My friends, I feel that way. Everybody, how are we moving forward to change our lives for better? And if you ain't with it, it's cool. We can come back and get you later. But you
Mhm.
can't ride if you ain't putting in some gas.
As like one of the leading experts in the country on depression and suicide, like what was it that made you want to focus your efforts into those two particular areas?
Well, I had to actually cut it down so people can understand it. Because
Okay.
when I say before, it was empowerment expert, but didn't nobody know what that meant.
Okay.
So, and then it was mental health, but people kind of know what that means, but they really don't. And then right now, mental health is a fad. Everybody's jumping in it.
Mhm.
So I had to specialize my talent into something that people understood.
Mhm.
Although I can do all these things, let me say suicide and depression because you can understand it. So that's the reason why I went with that to refine the understanding of what I do.
And is that like your favorite topics to talk about out of all the ones that you mentioned?
I like touching on it all from food. I mean, eating healthy to understanding your thought, to understanding childhood trauma. So I just created a course on that. Childhood trauma to the depression, to the suicide, to what you ingest as far as mentally. I was talking to some parents about raising their children, and I'm like, how many times do you tell your child to do the right things or don't steal or do this or do this? And you tell them all these things, right? They was like, well, a lot. I said, how many times do a song tell them to do the opposite?
Mhm.
You know, you got a hook in your ear, and we already know that's chance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, we see it. So how many times is your child listening to this? By the time they get to school, they done heard something 100 times when you only told them 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's all those things that I love talking about. I love talking about perspective because everything inspired me, from space to the how we are animals, looking at universal laws, things that don't change. Everything inspires me. So I love talking about it all.
Nice.
All right. So then you just brought up a good point, like being able to like connect with the younger generation, like the folks in high school right now. And so how do you find that you can still relate a message to where it still resonates with them, to where they really take heed to the message that you're sharing with them?
Because I related so raw. Like my first thing of getting on stage is talking about how I had a gun held to my head at 6 years old. They're like, wait a minute. And there's a few ways that you reach people. It's always songs or stories. That's the most relatable form of reaching people, songs or stories. So I go with stories because I can't sing word for lick. So I get deep into the stories. So when I'm talking about my mom on crack, or I'm talking about like my mom watching her sister be raped and, you know, my grandma not doing nothing about it. Or if I talk about all these things and how I got to where I am, they sit back and be like, okay, either I relate to him and I can get through it too because he got through it, or I didn't start off as bad as he did. He didn't. Look where he at. So it relates all the way up and down because I talk about not only the drugs, but I talk about my mindset. From a bad attitude, it's a lot of young kids suffering with that. The number one email I get from kids is I don't want to kill myself, but I don't want to wake up tomorrow. And that's kids in privileged areas, and that's kids in Compton, right? So speaking of that, let me talk about this one scenario. I ended up speaking at South Central School, and I spoke at Beverly Hills. And both of them had like wishes. These people that was in the South Central, you know, some of them never even been to the beach. I was like, this is mind blowing. You never even been to the beach? Like, I wish I was one of those families in Beverly Hills, etc. That's what they really wishing. Because they see this kid in the Benz or whatnot that they see on TV. And I spoke to these kids in Beverly Hills, and I didn't know trophy wife was a real thing. So I thought it was just a television thing. Then I talked to some young white kids that they just see their mom 3 times a year, literally. So they're sitting here wishing for family. They wishing for camaraderie. They wishing for all these different types of things that they never got because their family believe in something else. They don't believe in the let me spend some time with you. It's spend some time with you on this yacht for your birthday or something like that. So they're disconnected. Then I seen what came out of that, which hit me kind of hard. When you got a lot of young boys, let's say the Beverly Hills, you got a lot of young boys that grew up at these private schools, predominantly all male private schools. They form cliques where they playing lacrosse or soccer. Let's just say soccer. They got their group that's playing soccer. So they growing up with a nanny. Their mother is not connected to them, and they're playing soccer. So what happens with a group of men that's disconnected from women but highly intelligent? They end up getting Fortune 500 companies and then look at what they do to women. So now we talk about women equality and job hiring. It's like, man, they're getting affected at a young age. They don't even care about their mom. You think they care about you? Heck no. They will just hire you based upon what laws is put into place, and they're going to figure out a way to finagle around that.
As you were talking, it sounded like an episode of All American.
I ain't never watched it.
Oh, you never watched that? You gotta check that out, brother. That's on Netflix. Because it was about like kids that grew up in Beverly Hills, and then they were like kind of squared off against kids from South Central, and it was just basically what you're saying. Like
that's exactly what I thought.
Across town, and then it's like 2 different worlds, and they're not that far apart. So,
Oh wow, yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out because I'm not him. But yeah, I see all these things happen so often that I'll be like, somebody has to say something.
Can you describe, for some of those people who've never experienced depression, what somebody who's living with depression might be going through?
In a nutshell, what depression looks like is essentially not caring about yourself. It's like you down on yourself. I don't want to be here. A lot of suicidal talk, a lot of contemplating suicide, a lot of thinking that your value is a lot less than what it actually is, and thinking it over and over and over again. And yeah, that's pretty much if I had to nutshell it, because it's so broad.
So like when in your work, like with some of the people that you work with who said, hey, Cyrus, I'm depressed. What are some of the things that you tell them to kind of help them get through that depression? Or what are some of the best coping skills that you can offer to somebody who says, hey, I'm depressed?
I try and connect them. I'm gonna jump over the real basic stuff is how much water is you drinking, food, nutrition, all that type of stuff. I always talk about that. At least drink water. I mean, just get yourself out of dehydration, get some rest, all these things, right? So let's remove that out the way. I try to connect them to the things that make them feel good. Like oftentimes, if you play the sport, how can you get involved in it? If you like to draw, how do you get involved in it? And I try and connect them to understanding that these things that we do helps other people. And I noticed that the best way that I've seen therapy help is them realizing that they're special to other people, or the work that they do help other people. Like I've seen kids that are depressed go to the Boys and Girls Club, mentor younger kids, and they start getting out of it. I've seen that happen with my own too. So oftentimes I usually connect people with the things that they're interested in. So I work with a lot of nonprofits. So if I talk to a young kid and they say, well, I love to draw, then I will connect them with a nonprofit that deal with art. And that's usually how I can do it to get them out of it to a degree. Now, even if they say, I don't even want to go there, I'll be like, we have to take this one step at a time. Sometimes we got to force ourselves to do things that we don't like doing, because it's so many times that you didn't want to do something, then you showed up and you loved it. So at least give it a shot if it's in the direction of something that you love to do, if you love to paint, if you love to do whatever, because the journey never stops. So if you want to do that today, you might not want to do it tomorrow, but at least right now it can keep your mind active. So that's the way I kind of approach it, by connecting them with people that's like pre-existing organizations that help whatever field that they love.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like that though. Like, you say like you kind of, not only are they trusting you enough to be able to share that with you, that, hey, Cyrus, I'm feeling like this, I'm feeling depressed, but then you're also able to connect them to resources. So it's not just you're sitting there talking to them, but you're able to find out, one, what is it that they're interested in, what is it that they like, and then being able to find a way to kind of connect them with the things that they've identified as an interest.
Yeah, it's kind of like find something to live for.
Exactly.
So they can like find their purpose or redefine their purpose and basically have hope, become more hopeful and excited.
Exactly.
And one thing that I like also, like when you're doing art, you're creating something, it's like you can see the end result and you can feel good about something that you created. And
exactly.
So I think that's very powerful.
That's why they got art therapy. Like it's all forms of therapy. My friend was just telling me that he like getting up in the morning at like 5:30 and shooting around with a basketball. It's mindless, but for him it's therapeutic. It's like meditation. So you can find that within the things that you like to do. So, and that's what I try and help kids to do. And I also got a workbook. I got it here, but I got a workbook because I realize as speakers, we go to these schools or we get out here and we talk and talk and talk and talk, and we get to get them high, but then they got to return back to their environment. Yeah. So they can only feel good for a few days. So I was like, what can I do to help guide them when I'm not there? So I created a workbook to not only help kids understand themselves, but connect that understanding to a career choice. So, and teaching them how to get there, how to research on YouTube or Google, how to interview people and learn about this, how to find mentors. This is what this workbook is about, because I was like, man, I'm tired of getting there. And then I got to leave. And they will go home and they were like, well, Mr. Cyrus said that I should believe in myself. Mr. Cyrus don't pay none of these bills. Now shut up and go in that room. It can get washed out as fast as it can get put in. So I was like, I got to put something there that can stabilize them and they can keep going.
I like that. It's more like that approach of, teach a man how to fish instead of just giving them a fish. And so I like that.
Exactly.
So there seems to be a lot of misconceptions, like as far as people who have suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts, that somehow they want to die. So what is really behind them saying that or expressing themselves in that way when that's not truly what they want?
Lack of understanding of self and a low value of self, because out here in society, we getting told to live a certain way. So we look on social media. Now I know it's fake. I know these rappers is having copper chains double dipped in gold. I know that. I know they're using the fake diamonds. I know that. But around the country, they don't know that. I know women is getting the photo shoots done by professional photographers and getting them adjusted and blemish cleared and waist slim. I know that, but the average person don't know that. I know people are taking pictures in front of cars that they don't own. It's a picture in front of a Lambo or a chopper and all that. I know that, but the average person don't know that. So what happens when you compare your real life to a fake life? You start believing that you're a failure. So that's what starts to happen. They start internalizing the failure because this says, look at the 5 people around you. If they're not successful, then it's a good chance that you're not going to make it. You know, those type of things that they hear. And then it's a Warren Buffett quote. And in our society, we value finances. Forget morals and integrity. We'd be like, how do Bill Gates feel about a disease? Like, who cares? You know, he's not a doctor. Yeah, so if you got finances, you can change what the perception of you is immediately. So going back to why do people feel that way? Because that's all we see. All we see is success, Lamborghinis, cars. We don't see the downfalls. So since we don't see the downfalls, we internalize that this is what success look like. And since I don't look like that, then I'm doing something wrong. When in actuality, your life is just like a lot of others. I see women that's got 2 million, 3 million followers on Instagram, and I know they stay in 7 deep in the studio apartment. They ain't gonna show that their air mattress is all over here and half of them is half inflated. They're not gonna show all that.
Half inflated.
Yeah, they ain't gonna show that they got a slow leak on their air mattress. They ain't gonna show that.
Exactly.
So then, like, yeah, no, I feel you, man. Like, one of the things that I do with my clients when I start working with them early on is actually do the values work to really kind of get a sense of, okay, so what values do you have? Like, how is it comparable to like maybe your parents' values, society's values, and really see like what are the values that you are currently living by, and what values do you aspire to live by? So really seeing like where does that come into play, and really being able to say, okay, so what steps can we take to ensure that you're actually living out your values and the things that are important to you? Maybe a Lambo is not important to you. Maybe being a IG model is not important, but it's being pushed down on you so much to where you feel like you need to do that, or you need to keep up with that, or you have no worth, or you have no value. So I totally understand that part of it for sure.
Yeah. So as you say, when you talk to them about values, and then if I ain't had no parents neither, or my parents, as in my case, smoking crack and selling it, and I had to completely abandon what I thought I knew and start developing a better understanding of self. I looked at it very simplistic. Is what I'm doing going to build or destroy? If it's going to destroy, I don't want nothing to do with it. And as I became conscious of my destruction, I eliminated it. But yeah, I do like the way you talk to them about the values. I'm going to keep that in mind for myself.
For sure. Let's talk a little bit about like accomplishments, man. So you've accomplished a lot. And so what are you most proud about some of the things that you've accomplished thus far?
Family unification. That means everything. When I rode the bicycle from Los Angeles to Ohio, it wasn't about the bike ride. It's always about the things that can pull everybody together. Because I got in November 10th. And the day that I got in, they gave me my own holiday in the city. But that same day, my brother died. So I'm like, dang, this is crazy. So before that, I ended up getting that Emerging Philanthropy Award. And after winning that, I was able to have a bowling event where all 3 of my side of my family, my mom, my dad, and my stepmom side of the family, we came together. It's the first time ever we came together. So that felt like a big accomplishment to me. That meant more than anything that I've achieved out here, period. So for me, unifying my family and helping them become better day by day is everything to me. Because if somebody, I consider the people in my circle my family. So anybody that get in my circle is my family. And I be looking and see that we all going through something. And that's where we have our strongest reach, by the people we can reach out and touch right now. Like y'all two right now being married, when you have your issue, you talking to her at night in the bed. That's some real one-on-one conversation, or while y'all having dinner, and you able to get to the root of things that nobody else is going to know. The things you going through and the things she going through, y'all not telling nobody else but each other. Y'all got the real secrets of each other. Same thing with her and her best friend. She ain't gonna tell you everything her best friend going through. Same thing you gonna do, you know. So that tells you where our reach is on the people that we can truly help. So when I look at that, I look at my family. Although I might travel the nation and speak to all these people, I don't have hands on with them 24/7. So I can only do so much of what I lay there, and then I leave. So, but with my family, I can build something and make sure they can come here consistently to get that help. Not only with nutrition, not only what they put in their mind, not only what they put mind, body, soul, pretty much.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about nutrition? You seem passionate about it too. Like when you mentioned that earlier, like what is the main thing that you focus when you talk about nutrition?
Well, I realized that one, your brain can't even operate properly. Operate properly without nutrition. So when you malnourished, you already fighting an uphill battle. So let me say this, and this is funny. This is really funny, actually. I was listening to this guy named Wim Hof, and he studies breathing and how to oxygenate the cells. So deep breathing and how it can take away sicknesses and headaches, etc. So after that, I was like, okay. So then I listened to people about water and how you're supposed to have half your body weight in fluid ounces daily. And I was like, okay, let me learn about that. Then I learned about housing and whatnot, rich dad, poor dad, reading, etc. Then I learned about food. And I was like, think about that on the most basic level. I had to teach myself how to eat, drink water, and breathe.
Wow.
What type of foundation did I start with if I got to teach myself how to breathe? That means I'm starting off in the hole. I'm in a deficit. So can you imagine that? So we do it we already do it automatically. So that's the reason why nutrition and things like that meant so much to me, because I started seeing my changes. I started seeing the way things was happening in my life, how I was able to react comfortably, how stomach and mind and body and the moods and all those things. And I started looking into food, and obviously Dr. Sabi, I think everybody's on hip to him now. And then I started looking at it and then seeing what it was doing to my body as I was consuming it. I was able to understand it, because I haven't really been sick since one time, but I was sick since 2003. I got sick again when I took some antibiotics for a toothache. Next thing you know, I was down and out. But
since 2003.
Wow.
2003. Yeah. It's been a grip. So after that, it was some, you got stuff to flare up like a little, sinuses or something like that, but no cold, besides when I took those antibiotics. But so I started seeing how it affects my body and what fasting does, and then how we are being lied to about protein and what it truly does and what it truly is, and amino acids to fats. I mean, just all these things, and that's the reason why nutrition means a lot. So I'm gonna end up creating I plan on having an interactive health cafe. So that's what I'm gonna roll out in Ohio. So I got to figure out ways to spoon feed people, because they eating chicken burgers, and I ain't mad at whatever somebody eat. I ain't mad at. I'm just saying accept everything that come with it. Don't like my grandma. My grandma smoked cigarettes. She ended up getting lung cancer and throat cancer, and I tried to coddle her. Walked in like, Grandma, I can't even believe you got lung. She like, don't grandma me. I knew what those cigarettes was gonna get me. There it is. Ain't nothing else to talk about. So if you're going to eat burgers and fries and all that, I don't care. Just don't complain to me about high blood pressure. Live with it. Live and die by it. So what I'm going to put in Ohio is a health cafe, and I got to figure out ways to spoon feed them where their knowledge is, but also start introducing them to health. Because I know if I come in there and offer salads, you can cut it out. My business won't last.
I was actually going to ask you about like your plans going forward, because obviously you're well accomplished and you're still very young though. So what's left
right now is becoming synonymous with mental health help, like depression, suicide. And what I'm going to do is keep putting out videos, keep creating programs, keep writing books, keep doing all that to build up a rapport. I got a game that I'm going to be coming out with, a coloring book, all these different types of things, because I'm building an infrastructure for a facility. So after I get synonymous with depression and suicide and overcoming, then I'm going to do a rollout of the juice place. So it's going to be on a small form, something like juices, smoothies, acai bowls, etc. with open space for programming. So it's going to be able to set up programming, but I already got the workbooks for kids and adults and all that. So I'm going to be able to build it in-house. Then after that, as that get rolling, then we're going to put food and all that. Then I'm going to end up creating a retreat center. So I got to figure out a way to separate people from their family that's causing it, to rehabilitate their minds and whatnot. And from there, I'm going to end up having a farm there, et cetera, et cetera. So now those foods is going to help the facility. So it kind of like I'm having a vertically integrated business model amongst the things that I love to do. So that's what I'm building now.
Wow, you have plans for years.
If all comes, I guess people that's willing to finance it to make sure it go faster, but I want to build it out properly because the name means a lot at this point, and building it to a certain level means everything because we're in a social currency system. How popular you are is a new currency system. So you have to build it up in order to do some of the things that you want to do.
When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be known for really a person that tried his best to make the world better. And as he found out his faults, he fixed them. You know, because I know I ain't perfect. I know I could be subconsciously or unknowingly leading somebody in the wrong direction. I can give some advice or tell somebody to eat something, then I find out that it's not actually good for the body. So I have to fix it and undo my wrong. So if somebody look at that, they can just say he was a work in progress to try and perfect himself.
Nice. I like that.
A work in progress to try and perfect itself.
And so, like, if somebody needed to get in touch with you or follow you or reach out to you online, where can they get a hold of you?
CyrusAusar.com. It has everything. It got my workbooks as I got here, Career Choice. I wrote a few books. This one right here. But CyrusAusar.com. Everything is Cyrus Ausar. On my Instagram, Facebook. I respond. If somebody inbox me, for anybody listening to this in the future, you can inbox me on Instagram. I will respond. If I don't get to you immediately, I still will respond.
Okay.
Same thing all the way around the board. But CyrusAusar.com, you can go there and you can get everything, and you can message me or email me.
We appreciate you taking the time to do this interview with us. I like that you are so honest and open about things that you experience. So I think that's very useful.
I appreciate y'all because the people that don't know is that you pay monthly to have this. So you coming out the pocket to help people with information. And whether this reach 1 people or 1 million people, if it affect change in any way, that's the effort that you two came together to create. So I always appreciate anybody that have any effort into trying to make the world better. So I'm appreciative of y'all putting together this platform to have me on it, to talk to me about anything that I wanted to talk about essentially, from the therapy work that y'all doing to everything that y'all putting out. I'm appreciative of it because I know, you know, we all trying to figure out ways to reach the most people and help the most people as possible. And we all don't have a perfect way, but we got our way. So the fact that y'all have y'all's way this way, I appreciate it. So thank you again for having me on here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our show for today.
Thanks again for tuning in.
And as always, like it or not, Beard and Curls
is the new his and hers.